Welcome back, weary travelers. Tonight we journey across the golden sands and along the mighty Niger River to the heart of the Mali Empire, where the great city of Timbuktu rises like a jewel from the Sahara. The air hums with the voices of scholars, the songs of griots, and the endless rhythm of trade caravans. You are Amadou, eldest son of a modest indigo dyer, and beside you walks your younger brother Yusuf, quick-tongued, restless, and loyal to the bone. Together you will discover that some debts are paid in gold, some in blood, and some in the courage to walk roads that have no certain end. Settle into the warmth of your blankets, breathe in the scent of distant spices, and prepare to follow the salt road's promise. The morning you learn of your father's debt, the sky over Timbuktu is the color of brass. You stand in the narrow courtyard of your family's compound, hands stained blue to the wrists from yesterday's work in the indigo vats. The air is already warm, though the sun has barely cleared the flat rooftops of the Sankore quarter. It smells of dust and donkey dung, of the acrid tang of dye, and the faint sweetness of millet porridge cooking somewhere nearby. A rooster crows from a neighbor's wall. Somewhere in the distance, the first call to prayer rises from the Jingaraber Mosque, the muezzin's voice clear and high, threading through the waking city like a needle through cloth. Your younger brother Yusuf sits cross-legged on a woven mat, chewing on a stick of sugar cane and watching you with those sharp, restless eyes that have gotten him into trouble since he could walk. You're grinding your teeth again. He observes around the cane. You only do that when father's been talking. You realize he's right. Your jaw aches. He spoke to me last night, you admit, flexing your stained fingers, after you went to sleep. Yusuf's expression shifts, humor draining away like water into sand. How bad? He asks quietly. You look at the blue on your hands, the color that has fed your family for 3 generations, the trade your grandfather brought from the Tuareg camps to the north, the craft your father has poured his life into. Indigo is worth its weight in cowrie shells in the right market. But your father is not a merchant. He is a craftsman. And craftsmen do not always have the cunning that trade requires. 300 mithqals of gold, you say. The words sit between you like stones. Yusuf's eyes go wide. 300? He breathes. To whom? Al-Hajj Mahmud, you say. The name tastes bitter. The merchant from Jenne. Father borrowed it 2 years ago to buy more indigo stock when the Tuareg caravans were delayed. He thought he could repay it within a year, but the rains failed, the harvest was poor, people bought less cloth, and Mahmud. You pause, swallowing. Mahmoud has decided he wants his gold back, now, with interest. Yusuf sets down the sugar cane, his face hardening in a way that makes him look older than his 16 years. How much interest? He asks. Enough that the total is now 450 mithqals, you say flatly. Your brother swears, a Songhai curse he learned from the boatman at the river docks, the kind that would earn him a cuff from your mother if she heard. He struggles for words. That's more than we could earn in 5 years. 10, maybe. I know. What did father say? What's his plan? You look away, toward the gate that leads out into the narrow street, toward the city beyond with its labyrinth of alleys and markets, its grand mosques and crumbling walls, its endless, restless motion. He has no plan, you say quietly. He asked me to find one. The weight of it settles on your shoulders like a yoke. You are 22 years old. You can read Arabic well enough to copy contracts and keep accounts. You know the difference between good indigo and poor, between Saharan salt and the cheaper stuff from the southern mines. You have a strong back and a steady hand. But you are not a miracle worker. And yet your father looked at you last night with eyes that have grown old too quickly. And he said, "You are the eldest, Amadou. If there is a way, you will find it." Yusuf stands abruptly, brushing dust from his cotton trousers. Then we find the way, he says, as if it is the simplest thing in the world. We go to Mahmud. We negotiate. We offer him something else. Labor, goods, time. Rich men love feeling generous. We make him feel generous. You want to believe in your brother's confidence. Yusuf has always had a gift for talking his way into and out of trouble, for charming market women into giving him extra dates, for convincing the imam's son to lend him books he has no business reading. But Alhaj Mahmud is not a market woman. He is a man who has made the pilgrimage to Mecca twice, a man whose caravans stretch from Timbuktu to Tagaza, from Gao to Marrakesh, a man whose wealth is counted not in mythcals but in whole camel loads of gold dust. Still, Yusuf is right about one thing. Doing nothing is not an option. All right, you say, we go to him today. Before he sends his men to our door, Yusuf grins, a quick flash of white teeth. There's my brother, he says. I was worried you'd gone soft from all that indigo fume. You cuff him lightly on the back of the head. Save your mouth for Mahmud, you say. You'll need it. Timbuktu in the morning is a living thing. You and Yusuf walk through streets that twist and turn like the pads of a dream, hemmed in by walls of sun-baked clay the color of old honey. The buildings rise 2 and sometimes 3 stories, their facades studded with wooden beams that jut out like broken teeth. Narrow wooden doors, painted blue or green or left bare, punctuate the walls. Above, the sky is a pale, relentless blue, the kind that promises heat by midday. The air hungs with voices. Merchants call out their wares in Songhai, Arabic, Tamashek, Fulfulde languages layered over one another like the colors in a woven cloth. You pass a man selling leather slippers dyed red and yellow, his goods spread on a woven mat. A woman with a baby bound to her back haggles over a sack of millet, her voice rising in mock outrage. 2 boys chase a runaway goat down an alley, shouting and laughing. The smell is overwhelming if you are not used to it. Sweat and spice, roasting meat and fresh dung, the dry, dusty scent of the Sahara that clings to everything no matter how far you are from the dunes. Smoke rises from 100 cooking fires. Somewhere, someone is frying bean cakes in palm oil. Your stomach growls despite your anxiety. You pass the Sankore Mosque, its pyramidal minaret rising like a finger pointing at God. Students sit in its shadow, bent over wooden tablets, reciting verses from the Quran in sing-song voices. A scholar in a white turban and indigo robes, so dark they are nearly black, walks past, trailed by 2 younger men carrying stacks of manuscripts wrapped in leather. Timbuktu is a city of books as much as gold. Your father once told you that there are more than 25,000 students in the city's madrasas, that the libraries hold hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, astronomy, mathematics, law, poetry, medicine. Knowledge flows through Timbuktu like the Niger River flows past its edges, constant, life-giving, impossible to hold in one hand. But knowledge, you think bitterly, does not pay debts. Yusuf walks beside you, his longer legs forcing you to quicken your pace. He is taller than you by half a head, lean and restless as a hunting dog. His hair is cropped close, his face still smooth. He has not yet grown the beard that marks a man in the city. He wears a simple cotton tunic and trousers, dyed a pale blue that's faded from many washings. A leather cord around his neck holds a small Quranic verse in a silver case, a gift from your mother. Do you know where Mahmud's house is? He asks as you turn into a wider street. Near the ginger bear, you say. In the quarter where the big merchants live. I've seen it from the outside. Have you ever been inside? No. Then how do you know he'll see us? I don't, you admit. But we have to try. Yusuf is quiet for a moment, his eyes scanning the crowd. If he refuses, he says slowly, what then? You've been asking yourself the same question all morning. Then we find another way, you say, more firmly than you feel. We go to the Mansa's court. We appeal to a judge. We run, Yusuf interrupts. We take father and mother and we leave the city. Go south, to Jenne or Gao. Start over. The idea is not new. It flickered through your mind last night as you lay awake on your mat, staring at the stars through the gap in the roof. But running means abandoning everything. The house, the vats, the reputation your family has built over decades. It means your father dies in shame, his name a whisper of failure. We don't run, you say. Not yet. Yusuf looks at you, and for a moment something complicated passes across his face. Frustration, admiration, fear. You're too stubborn for your own good, he mutters. I learn from the best, you reply, and he snorts despite himself. Al-Hajj Mahmud's house is not hard to find. It rises at the edge of the dingy Arabic quarter, a sprawling compound with high walls and a heavy wooden gate reinforced with iron bands. The walls are freshly plastered, painted a pale ochre that glows in the morning light. Above the gate, geometric patterns are carved into the clay, interlocking stars and diamonds, the kind of decoration that speaks of wealth and taste. Two men stand outside the gate, leaning on long spears. They wear loose cotton robes and turbans wrapped in the Tuareg style, their faces partially veiled against the dust. Their eyes are sharp, watchful. You and Yusuf stop a few paces away. One of the guards straightens, his hand shifting slightly on his spear. State your business, he says in Tamashek-accented Arabic. You swallow, your mouth suddenly dry. We seek an audience with Al-Hajj Mahmud, you say, keeping your voice steady. My name is Amadou ibn Ibrahim, son of Ibrahim the dyer. My father has business with your master. The guard's eyes flick over you, taking in your stained hands, your worn sandals, the lack of any retinue or wealth. Al-Hajj Mahmud does not see every man who knocks on his gate, the guard says. If you have a debt, speak to his steward. If you have goods to sell, go to the market. We have neither, Yusuf says, stepping forward with that easy confidence that makes people listen despite themselves. We have a proposal, one that will benefit your master more than simply seizing our father's house. The guard's expression does not change, but something flickers in his eyes. Curiosity, perhaps, or amusement. Wait here, he says. He turns and raps on the gate with the butt of his spear. A small panel slides open. Words are exchanged, too low for you to hear. Then the panel closes. You and Yusuf stand in the street, the sun climbing higher, the heat beginning to press down like a hand on your shoulders. Do you actually have a proposal? You murmur. Not yet, Yusuf admits. But I will, by the time we get inside. That's reassuring. You're welcome. The gate swings open. A man stands in the entrance, older than the guards, with a neatly trimmed beard going gray and a robe of fine white cotton. His eyes are shrewd, his posture that of a man used to authority. I am Musa, he says. Steward to Al-Hajj Mahmud. You claim to have a proposal? We do, you say, before Yusuf can speak. One that concerns the debt owed by our father Ibrahim the dyer. We ask only a few moments of the Hajj's time. Musa studies you both for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he steps aside. Come, he says, but do not waste his time. He is a busy man, and his patience is not infinite. You exchange a glance with Yusuf, half relief, half terror, and step through the gate. Inside, the compound is another world. The courtyard is large and open, paved with smooth stones. A fountain burbles at its center, water splashing into a basin lined with blue tiles that catch the light like pieces of sky. Date palms rise from planted beds, their fronds rustling in the faint breeze. The air smells of jasmine and mint, a sharp contrast to the dust and smoke of the streets outside. Around the courtyard, doorways lead into shaded rooms. You glimpse rich carpets, low cushions, the gleam of brass lamps. Somewhere, a woman's voice rises in song, high and sweet, accompanied by the plucked strings of a kora. Musa leads you across the courtyard to a shaded portico, where men sits on a low divan, a brass tray of tea and dates at his elbow. He is perhaps 50, with a full beard streaked with gray and eyes that are dark and calm. He wears a robe of deep indigo, your father's work, you realize with a jolt, and a white turban wrapped in the style of a man who's walked the pilgrim roads. His hands are clean, his nails trimmed. Rings glint on his fingers, gold, cornelian, a single emerald. He does not rise as you approach. So, he says, his voice smooth and unhurried, the sons of Ibrahim the dyer come to my door. I confess I did not expect this. You and Yusuf stop a respectful distance away. You press your right hand to your heart and bow slightly, the gesture of respect. Peace be upon you, Al-Hajj, you say. We thank you for seeing us. Peace be upon you also, Mahmud replies. He gestures to the cushions opposite him. Sit, drink tea. Then tell me why I should not send my men to your father's house tomorrow and take what is owed. His tone is not unkind, but there is no softness in it either. You sit, Yusuf beside you. Nusa pours tea from a silver pot into small glasses, the liquid dark and fragrant with mint. You take a glass, the heat of it almost painful against your palm, and sip. The tea is sweet, perfectly balanced. My father is a good man, you begin carefully. He borrowed in good faith, intending to repay. But circumstances, Mahmud interrupts gently, are not my concern. I lent gold. I expect gold in return. This is the foundation of trade, of trust. If I forgive one debt, 10 more men will come to my door with stories of bad harvests and sick children. I cannot run my business on sympathy. We do not ask for forgiveness, Yusuf says, his voice steady. We ask for time, and we offer something in return. Mahmud's eyebrows rise slightly. Oh, he says, and what could the sons of a dyer offer me that I do not already have? Yusuf leans forward, and you see the spark in his eyes, the same spark that appears when he is about to talk his way into something dangerous. Labor, he says. Service. You are a merchant, Al-Hajj. Your caravans travel far to Tagaza for salt, to Gao for gold, to Jenne for grain. You need men you can trust, men who are literate, who can keep accounts, who are not afraid of hard work. He gestures to you. My brother reads and writes Arabic. He knows trade, quality, negotiation. I am strong, and I learn quickly. Give us 1 year. Let us work for you, on a caravan, in your warehouses, wherever you need us. At the end of that year, if we have not earned enough to cover the debt, you may take our father's house and everything in it. But if we succeed... He pauses. If we succeed, the debt is paid, and you gain 2 men who owe you their loyalty. The courtyard is very quiet. You can hear the fountain's soft splash, the distant murmur of voices from inside the house, the rustle of palm fronds. Mahmud sips his tea, his expression unreadable. You are bold, he says at last. I will give you that. But boldness is not the same as wisdom. What makes you think you can survive a caravan to Tagaza? Men die in the desert. They die of thirst, of heat, of bandits. And even if you survive, what makes you think you can earn 450 myth calls in a single year? We don't know that we can, you say honestly, but we know we will try. And trying is better than watching our father lose everything without lifting a hand. Mahmud's gaze shifts to you, and for a moment you feel as though he is weighing you on some invisible scale. Your father dyes of fine indigo, he says quietly. I have bought from him for years. He is an honest man. Foolish with money, perhaps, but honest. He sets down his tea glass. Very well, he says. I will make you an offer. Not out of kindness, but because I am curious to see if you have the spine to match your words. Your heart leaps. There is a caravan leaving for Tagaza in 3 days, Mahmud continues. It is a hard journey. 20 days north across the desert to the salt mines. 20 days back. The men who go are experienced. They know the wells, the routes, the dangers. You do not. But if you are willing to go, I will count your labor as part of the debt. 50 myth cows each, if you return alive and with the salt intact. 100 myth cows. It is a quarter of the debt. Not enough, but a start. And the rest, you ask? We will discuss that when you return, Mahmud says. If you return. Tagaza is not a place for soft men. If you die there, your father's debt remains, and I will take what is owed. Do you understand? You look at Yusuf. His face is pale, but his jaw is set. We understand, you say. Then go, Mahmud says. Speak to Musa. He will give you the details. The caravan leaves at dawn in 3 days. Be ready, or do not come at all. He waves a hand, dismissing you. You and Yusuf rise, bow, and follow Musa back across the courtyard. Your legs feel unsteady, as though the ground has shifted beneath you. Outside the gate, the noise and heat of the city crash over you like a wave. Yusuf lets out a long, shaky breath. Well, he says, that went better than I expected. Better, you echo. He's sending us into the Sahara. Yes, Yusuf says, and he is grinning now. That wild, reckless grin that has always meant trouble. But he's giving us a chance. That's more than we had this morning. You want to argue? You want to point out all the ways this could go wrong. The heat, the thirst, the bandits, the very real possibility that you will die with sand in your lungs and your bones bleaching under the sun. But he is right. It is a chance. And right now, a chance is all you have. The 3 days before the caravan departs pass in a blur. You and Yusuf return home to find your father sitting in the courtyard, his hands idle in his lap, his face drawn. When you tell him what you have done, he is silent for a long time. Then he pulls you both into an embrace, his arms strong despite his age, and he whispers, "May God protect you." Your mother weeps, but she does not try to stop you. She packs food for the journey, dried dates, millet cakes, strips of smoked fish wrapped in cloth. She presses a small leather pouch into your hand, and when you open it, you find a handful of cowrie shells and a folded paper with a prayer written in her careful hand. For protection, she says, keep it close. You tuck it into your shirt next to your skin. Yusuf spends the days gathering what you will need: water skins, sturdy sandals, a length of cloth to wrap around your head against the sun. He borrows a knife from a friend, a short, curved blade with a worn handle. He tests its edge against his thumb and nods, satisfied. You go to the market and buy a small blank ledger and a reed pen. If you are to prove your worth to Mahmud, you will need to keep careful records. On the 3rd morning, before the sun rises, you and Yusuf leave your home. The city is still dark, the streets empty except for a few early risers and the dogs that roam in packs. Your footsteps echo off the clay walls. The air is cool, almost cold, and you pull your cloak tighter around your shoulders. At the northern gate, the caravan is already gathering. There are perhaps 30 camels, tall and ungainly, their long necks swaying as they chew cud and grumble. Men move among them, checking ropes, loading bundles, shouting instructions in a mix of languages. The camels are loaded with trade goods, bolts of cloth, bars of iron, sacks of millet, and empty baskets that will be filled with salt on the return journey. The smell is overwhelming: camel dung, sweat, dust, the faint tang of leather and wool. A man approaches you, short and broad-shouldered, his face weathered by years under the sun. He wears a dark blue talmust, the Tuareg veil, wrapped around his head and face, leaving only his eyes visible. "You are the dyer's sons?" he asks in Arabic. "We are," you say. "I am Ag Muhammad," he says. "I lead this caravan. Musa told me you would be coming." His eyes flick over you, assessing. "You have been in the desert before?" "No," you admit. "Then you will learn quickly, or you will die," he says bluntly. "Stay close to the caravan. Do not wander. Drink only when I say. If you fall behind, we will not wait. Understood?" "Understood," Yusuf says. Ag Muhammad grunts. "You will walk," he says. "The camels are for goods, not for boys who do not know a dune from a ditch. Keep up." He turns and strides away, already shouting at a man who has tied a load incorrectly. You and Yusuf exchange a glance. "Wow," Yusuf says. "He's charming." "He's keeping us alive," you reply. That's enough. The caravan departs as the first light breaks over the eastern horizon. The camels lurch to their feet with groans and complaints, their loads swaying. The men fall into a loose line, some walking, some riding. their voices rising in a rhythmic chant that helps keep the pace. The sound is strange and hypnotic, a melody without words, rising and falling like the wind. You and Yusuf walk near the back, your water skin slung over your shoulders, your feet already aching in your sandals. Timbuktu falls away behind you, its walls and minarets growing smaller and smaller until they are swallowed by the haze. Ahead, the desert opens like a mouth. The Sahara is not what you expected. You had imagined endless dunes, rolling waves of sand like the pictures in the manuscripts you have seen. And there are dunes, yes, great ridges of sand that shift and shimmer in the heat, their crests sharp as blades. But there is also flatness, vast stretches of hard-packed earth and gravel, dotted with tufts of dry grass and thorny shrubs that look dead that somehow cling to life. There are rocky outcrops, their surfaces black and cracked by the sun. There are places where the ground is white with salt, crusted and glittering, and there is sky, so much sky that it feels like you are walking at the bottom of an ocean of light. The blue is so deep it hurts to look at. The sun is a hammer, pounding down on your head, your shoulders, your back. Even with your tagelnuss wrapped tight, the heat finds you, seeping into your skin, your lungs, your bones. By midday, you understand why Ag Mohammed told you to drink only when he says. Your throat is parched, your lips cracked. Sweat soaks your tunic, then dries, leaving salt stains. Your legs tremble with effort. The sand shifts under your feet, making every step twice as hard. Yusuf walks beside you, his face set in grim determination. He does not complain, but you can see the strain in the tightness of his jaw, the way his hands clench and unclench. The caravan does not stop. It moves like a single organism, slow and relentless. The camels plod forward, their broad feet spreading to grip the sand. The men chant, their voices a constant thread of sound. Ag Mohammed rides at the front on a white camel, his eyes scanning the horizon. You lose track of time. There is only the heat, the sand, the endless rhythm of walking. When the sun finally begins to sink toward the western horizon, Ag Mohammed raises his hand. The caravan stops. You collapse onto the sand, gasping. Your legs feel like water, your head pounds. Yusuf drops beside you, his chest heaving. Still think this was a good idea? You rasp. He laughs, a dry, cracked sound. Ask me tomorrow, he says. Around you the men are already at work. They unload the camels, hobble them so they cannot wander, set up simple shelters, lengths of cloth stretched between poles, creating patches of shade. A fire is built, small and efficient, fueled by dried camel dung. A pot is set to boil, filled with water and millet. You and Yusuf are given a water skin and told to drink. The water is warm, tasting of leather and dust, but it is the most beautiful thing you have ever tasted. You drink slowly, forcing yourself not to gulp, and feel life seep back into your limbs. As the sky darkens, the temperature drops with shocking speed. The heat that pressed down all day vanishes, replaced by a cold that bites at your skin. You wrap yourself in your cloak and huddle close to the fire. The men eat in silence, passing around bowls of millet porridge and strips of dried meat. You eat with your fingers, too tired to care about manners. After the meal, one of the men, a tall Songhai with a scar across his cheek, pulls out a small drum and begins to play. The rhythm is slow and steady, like a heartbeat. Another man joins in, singing in a language you do not know, his voice deep and mournful. The sound drifts out into the desert, swallowed by the vastness. You lie on your back, staring up at the stars. There are so many, more than you have ever seen, even on the clearest nights in Timbuktu. They blaze across the sky in rivers and clusters, so bright they cast faint shadows. The Milky Way is a glowing road, stretching from horizon to horizon. Do you think Father is looking at the same stars? Yusuf murmurs beside you. Probably, you say, and worrying. He should worry, Yusuf says. We're insane. You smile despite yourself. Yes, you agree, we are. but you are also alive. And tomorrow you will walk again. The days blur together. Walk, rest, eat, sleep, walk again. Your body adapts slowly. Your legs grow stronger. Your skin darkens, toughens. You learn to wrap your tagelmust so that only your eyes are exposed. Learn to walk with a rhythm that conserves energy. Learn to read the subtle signs that Ag Muhammad washes for. The shape of a dune, the color of the sand, the flight of a bird. You and Yusuf are given tasks. You help load and unload the camels, your hands blistering and then hardening. You learn to tie the cots that hold the load secure, to coax a stubborn camel to its feet, to spot when a water skin is leaking before all the water is lost. Yusuf, with his quick tongue and quicker hands, becomes a favorite of the men. He learns their songs, their jokes, their stories. At night, he sits by the fire and listens as they talk of past journeys, of fortunes made and lost, of the strange things they have seen in the desert, jinn that dance in the heat shimmer, oases that appear and vanish, the bones of ancient cities buried under the sand. You, quieter by nature, watch and learn. You notice that Ag Muhammad checks the position of the stars each night before sleeping, that he tastes the sand in certain places, that he listens to the wind as though it speaks to him. One evening, as you help him secure a load, he glances at you. "You are not as soft as I thought," he says. It is the closest thing to a compliment you have received from him. "Thank you," you say. "Do not thank me yet," he replies. "The hard part is still ahead." On the 12th day, you see the wells of Arawane. They appear first as a dark smudge on the horizon, then as a cluster of low structures, crumbling walls, a few stunted palms, the dark mouths of wells dug deep into the earth. The caravan stops here to rest and refill the water skins. Aralan is not a town, not really. It is a place where caravans pause, a marker on the road to Takhaza. A few families live here, eking out a living by selling water and dates to travelers. Their homes are simple, walls of piled stone, roofs of woven palm fronds. You and Yusuf help draw water from the wells, hauling up bucket after bucket, your shoulders burning. The water is cool and clear, a small miracle in the vastness of the desert. That night, the caravan camps near the wells. A group of travelers from another caravan, heading south, back toward Timbuktu, shares the fire. They bring news. The Mansa's army has won a victory against raiders from the east. A new madrasa is being built in Janneh. The price of gold has risen in Marrakesh. The men trade stories, laughter rising into the night. You sit a little apart, writing in your ledger by the light of the fire. You are keeping a record of the journey, distances traveled, supplies used, observations. It is a habit born of your father's teaching. A merchant who does not keep records is a merchant who loses money. Yusuf drops down beside you, chewing on a date. "What are you writing?" he asks. "Everything," you say, in case Mahmoud asks. Yusuf snorts. "You think he cares about how many water skins we refilled?" "I think he cares about men who pay attention," you reply. Yusuf is quiet for a moment, watching the fire. "Do you think we'll make it?" he asks suddenly. "To Tagaza and back." You look at him, at the firelight flickering across his face, at the exhaustion and determination in his eyes. "Yes," you say. "I think we will." "Why?" "Because we have to," you say simply. "And because we're together." Yusuf smiles, a small, tired smile. "That's a terrible reason," he says. "It's the only one I have," you reply. He laughs and leans his shoulder against yours. "Good enough," he says. On the 15th day, the landscape changes. The sand gives way to a plain of white salt, stretching to the horizon. It glitters in the sun like a frozen sea, blinding and beautiful and utterly lifeless. Tagaza. The salt mines rise from the plain like a fever dream. There are no trees, no grass, no water. Only salt. The buildings, if you can call them that, are made of salt blocks, cut from the earth and stacked into walls. They glow in the sunlight, pale and ghostly. Men move among the structures, their skin caked with white dust, their eyes red-rimmed. They are miners, slaves and free men both, who spend their lives digging salt from the earth. The work is brutal. The heat is worse than anything you have felt. The air tastes of salt, dries your mouth, stings your eyes. The caravan stops at the edge of the mines. Ag Muhammad dismounts and speaks with a man in a salt-crusted robe, the overseer of the mines. They haggle, voices rising and falling, hands gesturing. Finally, they clasp hands. The trade is made. Over the next 2 days, you and the other man load the camels with salt. The blocks are heavy, each one the size of a large book, cut into rough rectangles. They are stacked into baskets and tied onto the camels' backs. The work is backbreaking. Your hands blister, then bleed, then callous. The salt gets into the cuts, burning like fire. But you do not stop. You and Yusuf work side by side, lifting, stacking, tying. The other men watch you with a new respect. You are no longer the soft boys from Timbuktu. You were part of the caravan. On the second night, as you collapse onto the ground too tired to eat, Ag Muhammad approaches. He crouches beside you and hands you a water skin. "You have done well," he says, "both of you. When we return to Timbuktu, I will tell Al-Hajj Mahmud that you are men of your word." You look up at him, surprised. "Thank you," you manage. He nods and stands. "Rest," he says. "Tomorrow we begin the journey home." The journey back is harder than the journey out. The camels are heavily loaded now, moving more slowly. The heat is relentless. Water is rationed even more strictly. Every step feels like a battle. But there is also a lightness in the caravan. The hard part is done. The salt is loaded. Barring disaster, you will return to Timbuktu with goods to sell and gold to earn. You and Yusuf walk with a new confidence. Your bodies lean and hard, your eyes sharp. On the 5th day of the return journey, disaster nearly finds you. It begins with a change in the wind. You feel it first as a prickling on the back of your neck, a subtle shift in the air. The sky, which has been endlessly blue, begins to yellow at the edges. The wind picks up, gusting in strange, erratic bursts. Ag Muhammad stops the caravan. He stands on a dune, staring at the horizon, his taggle must whipping around his face. Then he turns and shouts, "Sandstorm! Hobble the camels! Get down! Cover your faces!" The men move with practiced speed. The camels are forced to their knees, their legs hobbled. The loads are lashed down tighter. The men huddle in the lee of the camels, wrapping their cloaks and tagglemusts around themselves. You and Yusuf crouch together, pulling your cloaks over your heads, pressing your faces into the sand. The storm hits like a living thing. The wind screams, tearing at your clothes, your skin. Sand fills the air, a choking, blinding cloud. It gets into your nose, your mouth, your eyes. You squeeze your eyes shut and breathe through the cloth of your tagglmust, each breath a struggle. The world disappears. There is only noise and darkness and the terrible, suffocating pressure of the sand. You lose track of time. It could be minutes, it could be hours. You press close to Yusuf, feeling his body next to yours, solid and real. You grip his arm, and he grips yours, and you hold on. Finally, slowly, the wind begins to die. The roar fades to a moan, then to a whisper, then to silence. You lift your head cautiously. The air is still hazy with dust, but the worst has passed. The sun is a pale disk, struggling to break through. Around you, the dunes have shifted, their shapes changed. The caravan is half buried, the camels groaning and shaking sand from their fur. Ag Muhammad stands, brushing sand from his robes. "Count off," he shouts. "Everyone, count off." One by one, the men call out. You and Yusuf add your voices. Everyone is accounted for. But one of the camels is dead, its neck twisted at a wrong angle, half buried in a drift. Another has a deep gash along its flank, bleeding sluggishly. Ag Mohammed curses, low and vicious. Unload the dead one, he orders. Redistribute the salt. Tend the wounded one. We move in an hour. The men set to work. You help unload the dead camel, your hands shaking with exhaustion and relief. The salt blocks are redistributed among the other camels, the loads carefully balanced. The wounded camel is treated with a paste made from herbs and fat, the gash bound with cloth. It will live, but it will be slow. As you work, Yusuf leans close. I thought we were going to die, he murmurs. So did I, you admit, but we didn't. No, you agree. We didn't. He grins, that wild, reckless grin. We're getting good at this, he says. You laugh, the sound startling in the stillness. Don't get cocky, you say. We're not home yet. On the 20th day, you see Timbuktu. It rises from the haze like a dream, its walls and minarets shimmering in the heat. The sight of it makes your throat tighten, your eyes sting. Home. The caravan picks up its pace, the camels sensing the nearness of rest and water. The men begin to sing, their voices rising in a triumphant chant. You and Yusuf walk side by side, your shoulders touching. You have done it. You've crossed the Sahara, survived the heat and the storms, brought back the salt. As the caravan passes through the northern gate, people come out to watch. Children run alongside, shouting and laughing. Women ululate from the rooftops, their voices high and joyful. You search the crowd and see your father, standing at the edge of the street, your mother beside him. When your father sees you, his face crumples. He pushes through the crowd and pulls you and Yusuf into his arms, holding you so tightly you can barely breathe. Thank God, he whispers. Thank God. Your mother weeps, her hands touching your faces, your arms, as if to make sure you are real. You're so thin, she says, and so dark. I almost didn't recognize you. We're all right, Mother, Yusuf says, his voice thick. We're all right. That night, you go to Al-Hajj Mahmud's house. Ig Mohammed accompanies you, his presence a silent endorsement. Mahmud receives you in the same courtyard, the same fountains splashing, the same jasmine scent in the air. But this time, when he looks at you, there is something different in his eyes. Respect. Ag Muhammad tells me you did well, Mahmud says. That you worked hard, did not complain, and survived a sandstorm that killed a camel. We did what was needed, you say. Mahmud nods slowly. 50 mithqals each, as agreed, he says. That leaves 350. Your heart sinks a little. It is still so much, but Mahmud is not finished. I have another caravan leaving in 2 months, he says. To Gao, down the river. It is a different kind of journey, trade, negotiation, politics. I need men who can read, who can speak well, who can be trusted. If you go, I will pay you each 75 mithqals. You and Yusuf exchange a glance. And after that, you ask? After that, Mahmud says, we will see. Perhaps another journey. Perhaps work in my warehouses. Perhaps, he pauses. Perhaps I will have use for men who have proven themselves as you have. He leans back, his fingers steepled. You have 1 year, as agreed. I believe you will leak it. And when you do, your father's debt will be paid, and you will have earned something more valuable than gold. What is that? Yusuf asks. Mahmud smiles faintly. A reputation, he says, in this city that is worth more than all the salt in Tagaza. 2 months later, you and Yusuf stand on the banks of the Niger River, watching as a fleet of canoes is loaded with trade goods. The river is wide and brown, its surface glittering in the morning sun. The air smells of water and fish and the green, living scent of the reeds that line the banks. This journey will be different. No desert, no sandstorms, but its own dangers, hippos, crocodiles, bandits, the treacherous currents of the river. You are not afraid. You have learned in the past months that fear is not the absence of courage, it is the presence of it. You have learned that you are stronger than you thought, that your brother is braver than he knows, that the world is wider and stranger and more beautiful than you ever imagined. Yusuf stands beside you, his face turned toward the river, his eyes bright. Ready? He asks. You think of your father, his debt slowly shrinking. You think of your mother, her prayers folded in your shirt. You think of Timbuktu, its streets and markets and mosques, waiting for you to return. You think of the road ahead and all the roads beyond that. Yes, you say, I'm ready. Beside you, Yusuf shifts his weight from foot to foot, excitement barely contained. I like this better than the desert already, he says. You can't drink sand. You also can't drown in sand, you reply. He grins, teeth flashing in the morning light. Always looking for the shadow in the sun, big brother. You look out at the canoes lined along the shore, long, hollowed logs polished by years of sun and water. Men move among them, checking lashings, loading baskets and bales, bolts of cloth, bars of iron, dried fish, gourds of oil, sacks of cola nuts from the south. In the center of one canoe, under a heavy leather cover, sits a reinforced chest bound in iron bands. Gold, you think, or manuscripts, or both. The property of Al-Hajj Mahmud. A man approaches you and Yusuf, his bare feet silent in the damp earth. He is tall, with shoulders like a wrestler and forearms roped with muscle. His skin shines with river-slick oil. Around his head he wears a strip of indigo cloth, tied at the back. A deep scar cuts across his upper lip and disappears into his left cheek, pulling his mouth into a permanent half-smile. His eyes, dark and quick, miss nothing. You are Ibrahim the Dyer's sons? He asks in Songhai-accented Arabic. We are. You say, I am Amadou. This is my brother, Yusuf. I am Sarai, he says. I command this convoy for Al-Hajj Mahmud. I hear you crossed the desert with Ag Muhammad and did not die. That is a good beginning. You say that as if most people do die. Yusuf says lightly. Sori's half-smile widens. On the river, most people who do not listen dive, he answers. Do you listen? We do, you say. Good. Then listen now. His tone changes, becomes sharp as a knife. You will ride in the middle canoes. You will obey orders. You will not stand up without reason. You will not put your hands in the water. You will not try to swim if we capsize. The current is stronger than you, and the river has teeth. Teeth? Yusuf echoes. Sarai gestures downstream with his chin. Hippos, crocodiles, hidden branches that will break your neck. Stay in the canoe. Cling to it like it is your mother. If you lose cargo, you will wish you had drowned. You swallow. Understood, you say. Good. He claps you each on the shoulder, hard enough to rock you on your feet. Load up. The canoe smells of wet wood, old fish, and palm oil. You kneel in the center, bracing your feet against the shallow ribs of the hull. Yusuf settles beside you, hands gripping the gunwales. 3 other men share your canoe. A wiry Fulani with long earrings who introduces himself as Bakari. A quiet Wolof man named Nidai with a scarred hand, and a teenage boatman, Musa, who handles the stern paddle with casual ease. Sorrente stands on the bank shouting last-minute instructions, his voice carrying over the chatter and splash of water. Keep the line. Follow my canoe. If I raise my hands, slow. If I shout down, get your heads down and your bodies low. Trust the river but never love it. It does not love you back. The canoes, 10 in all, ease away from the bank. Musa digs his paddle into the water, and your canoe glides forward, rocking gently. The others follow, falling into a loose, staggered line. The current catches you, stronger than it looks, and tugs you downstream. The city of Timbuktu falls away behind you, the low mud walls and towered mosques fading into the haze. The river bends, disappearing behind a curtain of trees. You feel a small twist in your chest, relief, excitement, fear, all braided together. The desert taught you the weight of silence and heat. The river speaks a different language. Constant motion, hidden depths, the slap and swirl of water against wood. Still think you prefer this? You murmur to Yusuf. He dips his fingers into the river and flicks a few drops at you. For now, he says, ask me again when a crocodile uses you as a toothpick. Days on the river find their own rhythm. At sunrise, mist drapes the water like gauze. The world is soft then, the sounds muffled, the low murmur of men's voices, the drip of water from paddles, the distant cries of birds. As the sun climbs, the mist burns away, and the heat settles, thick and damp. Insects whine in your ears. The air smells of mud and green things and animal musk. The banks slide past, sometimes low and marshy, sometimes rising into rocky bluffs. Villages appear and vanish. Clusters of round mud huts with thatched roofs, smoke curling from cooking fires, children waving from the shore. Occasionally, a fisherman's dugout canoe appears, the man standing in the stern, casting a net with practiced grace. You and Yusuf learn the small disciplines that keep you alive. You sit low, knees wide for balance, hands resting lightly on the gunwales. You do not lean suddenly. You pass bundles hand to hand when Sore whistles from up ahead for the line to tighten or widen around a tricky bend. You watch Sore. His canoe leads always, his paddle biting deep in shore. Sometimes he stands, body swaying with the boat, eyes fixed on the water's texture, the way it swirls around a submerged rock, the sudden change in color that marks a hidden sandbar. The broken ripples that betray the nostrils of a hippo just breaking the surface. Once, he raises his arm and shouts a word in Songhai. Every boatman in the convoy freezes. Down, Musa barks. Hippos! You and Yusuf duck, pressing your chests to the bundles, the gunwales hard under your ribs. The river ahead boils. Massive gray backs heave out of the water, jaws yawning wide, pink and wet, and full of thick, crushing teeth. The air fills with their bellowing roars, so loud they vibrate in your chest. A sour animal stink washes over you. The canoes glide past in a slow, tense procession, paddles dipping as quietly as possible. The hippos snort and toss their heads, water spraying from their nostrils. One of them turns, small piggish eyes fixing on the line of boats. Time stretches. Then, with a grunt, it sinks beneath the surface. Only when Sore straightens and drops his arm do the men breathe again. You lift your head, heart pounding. Still prefer water to sand? You whisper. Yusuf swallows. Ask me when we get to Gao, he says hoarsely. It is on the 6th day that the river shows you its teeth in a different way. The morning starts as usual. Mist, birdsong, the rhythmic slap of paddles. The convoy moves in a lazy S-curve, following the river's meanders. Around midday, the sky begins to change. Clouds gather on the horizon, dark and heavy. The air grows thick and still, the kind of stillness that makes your skin itch. The birds grow quiet. Even the insects seem to hold their breath. Sore glances up often now, eyes narrowed. Musa shifts uneasily at the stern. What is it? Yusuf asks in a low voice. Storm, Musa mutters. Big one. Rain you can handle, you think. You've seen storms in Timbuktu, short, violent bursts that cool the air and leave mud in the streets. But the river is different. The first gust of wind hits like a slap. It comes from nowhere, sending ripples skittering across the water. The canoes rock. Men curse softly, adjusting their weight, tightening their grip. Then the sky opens. Rain hammers down, turning the surface of the water into a sheet of white fury. You are soaked in seconds, cloth plastered to your skin, hair dripping into your eyes. The world narrows to the canoe, the men around you, the blur of Sore's form ahead. Stay low, he roars over the wind. Paddle, keep together. Thunder cracks overhead, so loud it feels like the world is splitting. The river, which before had flowed in a stately, measured way, surges. You feel the canoe leap under you, the bow swinging sharply as the current grabs it. Musa fights the stern paddle, muscles bunching in his arms. "Rocks!" someone screams from another boat. You glimpse them through the curtains of rain, jagged teeth of stone jutting from the water, white foam exploding around them. The current races toward them, eager. "Right! Right!" Soray bellows. The whole convoy veers, paddles churning. Your arms burn as you dig your hands into the river, helping despite your inexperience, feeling the pull of the water trying to drag the paddle from your grip. For a moment, it seems you clear the rocks. Then a hidden branch, or maybe a submerged log, you never see which, catches the underside of your canoe. There is a sickening, splintering sound. The canoe lurches violently sideways. The world flips. The water is shockingly cold. One moment you are kneeling in the canoe, rain beating on your back. The next you are underwater, the roar of the river filling your ears, your nose, your mouth. You do not know which way is up. The current grabs you, hurling you forward. Something slams into your side, another body, a piece of wood, you can't tell. Your lungs burn, panic claws at your throat. "Cling to the canoe," Soray said. "Cling like it is your mother." You open your eyes against the sting and see only brown, churning chaos. Your hands flail, desperate, and then your fingers brush smooth, curved wood. You grab. The canoe is half turned, its belly toward the surface. You hook your arm over the hoe, pulling yourself close. Your head breaks into air and rain. You cough, choking, sucking in water and breath at the same time. The world is a maelstrom. Canoes buck and twist in the waves. Men shout, their voices snatched away by the wind. The sky is a bruise, the river a living thing gone mad. "Amadou!" a voice screams. You twist, blinking water from your eyes. Yusuf, he is a few arms lengths away, one hand clinging to a floating bundle, the other clawing at the water. His head goes under, then up again, eyes wide with terror. "Here!" you shout, though you are not sure you can even hear yourself. You kick, dragging the canoe with you, muscles screaming. The current fights, determined to tear you away, to send you spinning into the rocks you can hear but not see. You stretch your free arm out, fingers spread. Yusuf's hand slaps into yours. You grip him with everything you have. "Hold me," you roar, grabbing the back of his tunic and hauling him in. "Don't let go." He clutches the canoe, coughing, his body shuddering with cold and fear. Together, you cling. Time collapses into a series of moments, a wave slamming over you, the hollow bang of the canoe against something hard, the streak of lightning that turns the world white, the crack of thunder that follows like the sky breaking. You lose sight of the other canoes. For a while there is only you, your brother, the upturned hull, and the endless, merciless river. Then, slowly, the fury begins to ebb. The rain lessens. The wind drops from a scream to a moan. The current, though still strong, eases a little. You are exhausted, every muscle trembling. Still, Yusuf pants. "Better than the desert." "Shut up," you wheeze. When the storm finally staggers away downriver, you find yourself in a wide, slow-moving stretch. The sky is pale again, streaked with ragged clouds. The air smells of wet earth and crushed green. You and Yusuf cling to the half-ruined canoe, panting. Your clothes hang heavy, your hair dripping. Around you, other wreckage appears, a bale of cloth, sodden but still bound, a broken paddle, a gourd bobbing like a dead turtle, and, one by one, other men, Musa, Mindiai, Bakari, all clinging to scraps or half-submerged hulls, coughing, eyes wide. "To me!" Soray's voice shouts, raw but strong. You turn. His canoe, the lead, still floats, though half full of water. Two other boats cling to it, men holding onto each other's gunwales, forming a desperate cluster. You and Yusuf kick and haul the ruined canoe toward them, inch by inch. Hands reach out, grab, pull. You tumble into Sore's boat like a pair of drowned cats, water pouring from your clothes. Sore sits in the stern, his scarred mouth pulled tight, eyes fierce. You held to the canoe, he says, breathing hard. Good. You look around, counting. In the end, you have lost 2 canoes completely, 3 more so badly damaged they will need repair. 1 man is missing, a Hausa porter named Girado. You remember his easy laugh, the way he whistled under his breath when he worked. The river gives no sign of him. Sore's jaw works, a muscle twitching in his cheek. We pray for his soul, he says shortly. Then we move. The river does not stop for grief. You bow your head, lips moving around a prayer for Gidado, for his family, for your own fragile luck. Yusuf's shoulder presses against yours, solid and reassuring. You're still here, together. They limp to a small fishing village on the eastern bank, arriving near dusk. The village is little more than a scatter of huts raised on stilts, connected by narrow walkways. Nets hang to dry between poles. Smoke curls from a communal fire. The smell of grilling fish makes your stomach twist with sudden painful hunger. The villagers come out to stare, eyes wide. Saray jumps from the canoe and speaks quickly with an older man whose beard is mostly white. Coins change hands. Women and children scatter to fetch more firewood, to bring calabashes of water, to help haul the sodden cargo onto the muddy shore. You and Yusuf are left sitting in the canoe for a moment, limbs leaden. Your hands are raw from gripping wet wood, your shoulders ache, your throat feels stripped. Yusuf lets out a shaky laugh. I think, he says, that I'm starting to lose my love for journeys. You say that every time we almost die, you reply. He bumps his shoulder against yours. And every time he says, I change my mind once I'm dry and fed. That night, under a low thatched roof that leaks in only 2 places, you learn that the river's teeth are not the only danger. You sit around the villagers' fire, steam rising from your clothes as they dry. Someone has cooked a great pot of fish stew, thickened with ground nuts. You eat until your belly aches. A woman passes around calabashes of thick, sour milk. It coats your tongue, strangely comforting after the tang of river water. The talk at first is of the storm, of Gidado, of the damage to the canoes. Then an old woman, her hair in thin gray braids, leans forward. You were lucky it was only the sky that tried to kill you, she says in slow, heavily affected Songhai. The river has other mouths. Sore's eyes narrow. What news, auntie? He asks respectfully. She spits into the fire. Bandits, she says. River thieves. They call themselves the men of the night current. They took a trading canoe last week, not far from here. Killed 2 men. Took the rest for ransom, or the slave markets, who knows. We heard they were head down river. You are going up river. You may cross paths. The men around the fire go quiet. River bandits. You think of the storm, of the way the river had no face, no mind, only blind force. Bandits do have minds, and they choose. How many? Soe asks. 6 boats, they say, the old woman replies, maybe more. Painted black, so they are hard to see at night. When did they pass? Soe presses. Not 3 days ago, she says. They follow the bends, waiting, like crocodiles. Soe's scar pulls, deepening his half-smile into something grim. We cannot turn back, he says. Mahmoud needs his cargo and Gao on time, and the river is the only road. The men look at each other. They are traders, boatmen, porters, not soldiers, not warriors. But on the river, everyone must be a little of everything. Yusuf leans close, voice low. Bandits, he murmurs. We survived the storm just to be robbed by men. Maybe we can avoid them, you say. Maybe, he says. And maybe the river will start flowing uphill. They move at dawn, earlier than before. Soray tightens the formation, no more lazy line, no more easy gaps. The canoes bunch closer, paddles dipping in near-perfect unison. The men speak less. Every bend in the river becomes a question. Every stand of reeds looks like a hiding place. The days pass in a stretched, taut silence. At night, they camp on islands or sandbars, dragging the canoes up just far enough to keep them from drifting. Fires are kept small, screened. Soray posts watch in pairs, changing every few hours. You volunteer for a shift. The night is close and humid. Frogs croak in the shallows. Fireflies blink in the reeds. The sky is a lighter smear above the darker trees. You sit with Nun Die, the quiet Wolof with the scarred hand, your backs to a bale of cloth, your eyes on the slow, black sheen of the river. "Have you seen bandits before?" you ask quietly. He shrugs. "On the sea once," he says. His accent is thick, his Arabic careful. "Far west. I was on a big boat, with a sail like a house. We carried salt and cloth. The pirates came in small boats, very fast, like flies around a cow." He pauses. "We had men with bows. Some died, some didn't. We lost cargo. Why did you come inland?" you ask. He flexes his ruined hand, the scars pale in the dim light. "The sea took this," he says. "The river is smaller, but it eats men just the same." You are about to answer when a soft splash, out of rhythm with the river's normal laps, catches your ear. You and Die both go still. Another splash. Not far, just beyond the thin line where firelight fades. Nodia's hand drops to the knife at his belt. You lean forward, squinting. At first you see nothing. Then a dark shape, low in the water. Then another, a little behind. No lanterns, no voices. Just the soft, purposeful dip of paddles. Your throat tightens. "And Di," you whisper. "There." He follows your gaze, eyes narrowing. He says softly. "Wake Soray." You slip away from the fire, heart hammering, and crouch beside Soray's rolled mat. "Soray," you hiss. "Boats." On the water. His eyes snap open instantly. He does not ask how you know. He rises in a smooth, practiced motion, hand going to the club he keeps at his side. "Wake the others," he murmurs. Slow, quiet. The camp stirs like an animal in its sleep. Men shift, roll, fingers closing on spear shafts and knives, paddles and poles. Someone quietly douses the fire with sand, plunging the camp into near darkness. Only the faint glow from the bank, the distant shimmer of starlight on water remain. Sorrente creeps to the water's edge. You follow, staying low. Now that your eyes have adjusted, you see them clearly. 6 long canoes, painted dark, hiding the far bank, moving like shadows. Each one holds 4, 5, 6 men. You catch the glint of metal spears, perhaps, or short swords. They do not expect to be seen. They plan to pass, then circle back, perhaps, or wait at the next bend. "They are many," Mendiai murmurs behind you. "More than us. They are expecting fat traders who piss themselves at the sight of a spear," Soray says softly. "Not men who survived the storm." In the faint light, you see his eyes, reflections of the river dark, unreadable. He looks at you. "Amadou," he whispers. "How good are your eyes?" "Good," you say. "Why, can you count how many men in the third boat from the front?" You squint, focusing on the suggested canoe. 5, you say after a moment. 1 at the stern, 4 sitting. "And in the first?" 6. 2 standing. Soray nods, like some internal tally aligns. "Good," he says. "You will be useful." That, somehow, is more terrifying than if he'd said nothing. Soray's plan is both simple and insane. "We cannot outrun them," he tells the gathered men in a hushed circle. "Our boats are heavy. We cannot hide. They know this river as we do. If we flee, they will chase and pick us off one by one." "So we fight?" Bakari asks, incredulous. "We are not soldiers. We fight." Soray agrees, but not as they expect. He picks up a length of thick rope and holds it up. "We tie the canoes together, forming one long spine," he says. Cargo toward the middle, men toward the ends. When they come close, we turn our boat into a wall. They will not expect resistance. We strike first. Stones, spears, paddles. We make them think we are more than we are. Men who live by fear can be made to feel it. Yusuf stares. You want us to lash ourselves together and dare them to attack? He says. Yes, Sore replies calmly. Do you have a better idea? Yusuf opens his mouth, closes it. No, he admits. Then work, Sore says. The next hour passes in a tense blur. Ropes appear from nowhere, spares from bundles, strips cut from worn lines. The canoes are nudged together, bows almost touching, sterns overlapping. Men move carefully, slowly, hands sure despite the tremor that runs through their limbs. You work with Yusuf and Nidai, tying knots, checking them twice. The night is not completely dark. A thin sliver of moon has risen, casting the river in shades of iron and ink. The air hums with insects and the distant, low hoot of an owl. Your breath sounds too loud in your ears. When the last knot is tied, the convoy floats as one crooked centipede, a segmented spine swaying gently. Sori moves from boat to boat, murmuring instructions. U stones. Find them, hold them. Aim for heads, hands, eyes. U paddles. Not for rowing now, for breaking fingers, knocking men into the water, knives last. We do not want to be pulled into their boats. We want them out of theirs. He stops in front of you. Amadou, he says. You have good eyes and a level head. You stay near the middle. Watch. Shout when you see them move. Yusuf swallows. You want me to insult armed bandits in the dark? He asks faintly. Yes, Sore says. Make them think we are demons. Or the man's own soldiers. Or ghosts from the storm. I don't care. Just make them afraid. Yusuf's mouth quirks, despite everything. I've been preparing for this all my life, he mutters. You squeeze his arm. Stay behind me, you murmur. For once, he says, you won't have to ask twice. They come just before moonset. You sense them before you see them. A change in the river's breathing. A subtle new pattern in the sound of water against wood. Then, shapes peel away from the bank, gliding silently toward the center. Boats, you whisper. 3 on the left. 2 on the right. 1 hanging back. Sore's silhouette at the front tenses. Steady, he murmurs down the line. Wait. Your hands are slick with sweat, though the air is cooler now. The bandits' canoes fan out, black on black. A voice calls from the darkness, Arabic with a rough edge. Ho, traders, he shouts. A fine night to be on the water. Heavy cargo you have. Lighten it for yourselves, give us half. We let you live. Laughter ripples across the water. You feel anger like a heat under your skin. Images flash. Gudado pulled under by the storm itself, the long, grinding weeks of desert and river, your father's tired eyes. Yusuf steps up onto the bundle in front of you, making himself a little taller. You can have the water under our boat, he shouts back, voice ringing in the night, if you can lift it. The bandits laugh again, but there is a different note in it now, amusement tinged with irritation. You think you are funny? The lead voice jeers. We took a caravan last week. 4 boats. Men begged like children. You think you are different? Of course we're different, Yusuf calls. Those men were fools. We are the man's own river guard. Cross us and your heads will dry on the walls of Tao. You blink. This is not the bluff you were expecting. Sore doesn't correct him. He turns to you instead, voice low. When they are closest, he says, your word is now. Give it loud. Give it once. You nod, throat dry. The bandit boats close in, emboldened by the lack of visible movement. They glide within 10 paces. 8. 6. You can see them clearly now. Lean, hard men, with cloths tied around their heads, eyes bright, hands on spears and hooks. Their canoes are lower in the water than yours, unburdened by cargo. One man stands in the prow of the nearest canoe, spear, resting casually on his shoulder. "You talk too much," he says to Yusuf. "We will cut out your tongue and see if your brother talks as well when you scream. You have to get close first." Yusuf says. You see the man's shoulders shift, just slightly, the weight of his spear changing. "Now!" you roar. It feels like the night itself explodes. From behind bales, from under tarps, from the shadows of men hunched low, stones fly. You didn't even see when they gathered them. Small fist-sized rocks taken from the shore at every camp, piled in silent readiness. Now they arc through the air in a ragged hail. The bandit in the prow screams, clutching his face as a stone smashes into his eye. 2 others go down, howling, fingers broken. Before they can recover, the first line of canoes slams into your lashed-together wall. The impact rocks you, nearly throwing you backward. Yusuf's hand clamps on your arm, steadying you. Men surge forward in the bandits' boats, spears stabbing. Paddles meet them. You've never seen paddles used as weapons before, but in Sore's hands, and in the hands of men who have spent their lives on the river, they are terrifying. Edges crack against wrists, flat sides slam into jaws and temples. A bandit leans too far, reaching to grab a bundle. Bakari's paddle whips around and smashes into his elbow. Bone cracks audibly. The man howls and pitches backward into the river. Chaos erupts along the line. You do not have a paddle. You have a ledger keeper's hands stained with ink. But ink has taught you something too, attention. Pattern. You see one of the bandits in the second boat rise, a short bow in his hand, arrow nocked. He is aiming at Sore's back. "Sore!" you shout, pointing. "Left, second boat, archer." Sore twists instinctively. A stone, flung from somewhere down the line, maybe NDI, maybe someone else, catches the archer in the throat just as he looses. The arrow goes wild, streaking into the dark. The bandit drops his bow, hands clawing at his neck, gasping. On the other side, you see a bandit hook the gunwale of one of your boats with a grappling pole, trying to pull it close enough to board. You shout to Musa, who grips a paddle beside you. "Cut the rope." He follows your gaze, sees the line, and brings his paddle down in a chopping motion. The rope snaps. The bandit staggers, nearly falling. Yusuf, eyes wide and bright with something perilously close to joy, lets loose a stream of insults that would make your mother faint. "You river leeches. Your canoes leak like your brains. I've seen old women fight harder over a bowl of millet. We are 30, no 50. The mance's men are behind us. Kill them and you die anyway. You don't know if there are 30 of you or 50 or 28. You don't know if the mance's men are anywhere within a week's journey." The bandits don't know either. People who live by fear know its taste, and you can taste it on the air now, sharp and sour, cutting through the iron tang of blood and the wet smell of the river. One of the bandits, face bloodied, looks back over his shoulder into the darkness behind your convoy. He hears only the roaring of your men, the splash and crash and howl. He imagines what might be coming that he cannot see. "Pull back," someone cries from their side, a note of panic in his voice. "We weren't told they had escort. Pull back." They try, but disentangling oneself from a determined enemy is harder than lunging in. 2 of their canoes are so tight against yours that when their men shove desperately off, they overbalance. One boat capsizes completely, spilling men and weapons into the river. Your men do not cheer. They are too busy surviving. You see a bandit clawing at the side of your canoe, trying to pull himself up. His eyes meet yours, wide, white around the irises, full of furious life. Without thinking, you stomp on his fingers. He shrieks and drops away. You feel his hatred like a brand as he vanishes into the dark water. Then, as abruptly as it began, it is over. The remaining bandit canoes peel away, paddles biting deep, retreating into the night. 2 trail-broken men in the water behind them. One lists dangerously, low, on one side. The river swallows them. Silence rushes in, like the air after a thunderclap. Your ears ring. You are trembling, you realize. Your hands shake. Your chest heaves. You look at Yusuf. He is breathing hard, eyes bright, hair plastered to his forehead. A smear of someone else's blood streaks his cheek. He grins at you, wild and disbelieving. We did it, he pants. You nod, not trusting your voice. Soray moves along the canoes, counting, checking. 2 men are badly injured. One has a deep gash in his thigh, blood soaking his trousers. Another cradles a broken arm, but no one is dead. Of the cargo, a few bales have been knocked into the river, lost. Most remains lashed in place. Soray returns to the center, standing where everyone can see him. You fought well, he says simply. They will not trouble us again. He looks at you and Yusuf, his gaze lingering, measuring. You bought us time with your eyes and your tongue, he says. Mahmoud will hear of this. Yusuf opens his mouth to make a joke. You see the tremor in his hands and know what it is, the backlash of fear, of adrenaline, of coming too close. You put a hand on his shoulder, grounding him. Tell him we did it for the extra myth calls, you say roughly. He's a merchant. He'll understand. Soray laughs, low and brief. Sleep, if you can, he says. Dawn is not far. Gao rises from the river like a promise and a threat. After weeks of mud-brown water and green banks and low villages, the city is a shock. Its walls are higher than Timbuktu's, newer, its towers more numerous. Smoke curls in thick pillars from unseen hearts. The air buzzes with noise you can hear even from the water. Shouts, hammering, the braying of donkeys, the clang of metal on metal. The smell is different, too, denser, richer. Sweat and charcoal, frying meat and fish, the sour-sweet tang of fermenting grain, the earthy funk of cattle. Songhai's capital. You feel it in your bones, a different kind of power than in Timbuktu. Less about books and quiet wealth, more about soldiers and iron, horses and spears. As your convoy glides toward the dock, a group of armed men in quilted armor and iron caps watches from the shore. Their spears glint. A banner flutters behind them, bright cloth bearing a symbol you don't recognize. Soray, you murmur. Who are they? Songhai's river guard, he replies under his breath. They watch who comes and goes, and decide how much tax to take. Friendly? Yusuf asks. Soray's scar twists. As friendly as crocodiles at low tide, he says. The taxman is fatter than you expected a man in armor to be. He stands at the end of the dock, a painted wooden desk dragged out beneath a crude awning to shade him from the sun. His mail shirt strains over his belly. A thin beard clings to his chin like moss on a rock. His eyes are small and quick. Beside him, a scribe with an ink-stained hand scratches notes on a roll of paper. Soray steps forward, weaving easily through the press of porters and dockworkers. Peace be upon you, he says in formal Arabic, bowing slightly. And upon you, the man replies, not rising. His gaze flicks over the canoes, the cargo, the men. Name? Soray al-Khanta, Soray says. Caravan master for Al-Hajj Mahmud of Timbuktu. Cargo? Cloth, iron bars, kola nut, cured fish, Soray recites. And private goods under seal for Al-Hajj's agents here. The taxman grunts. Tax is 8 mithqals per boat, he says offhandedly. Soray's expression does not change, but the men behind him stir. 8? He repeats mildly. Last season it was 3. New policy, the taxman says. War is expensive. Horses must be fed. Men must be paid. The river is ours to guard. The road is ours to charge. But the mansa, Soray begins. The taxman cuts him off with a flick of his hand. The mansa is far away, he says. We are here. There it is, you think. You can feel tension ripple through the caravan. An increase from 3 to 8 mithqals per boat would take a savage bite out of the profit. After the losses from the storm and the bandits, it might even turn the journey into a failure. Soray knows it. The men know it. The taxman knows it. Yusuf leans close to you, voice low. You see that? He murmurs. What? The way he doesn't look at Soe when he says, war is expensive, he says. He looks at the ledger, at his scribe's hand. He's not thinking about soldiers. He's thinking about how big a slice he can take without choking. You follow his gaze. The scribe's robes are fine for someone in that position. Good cloth, clean, with embroidery at the cuffs. His ink pot is bronze, not clay. A small gold ring glints on his smallest finger. A man with access to other men's silver, you think, and not above skimming. You remember the night in Mahmud's courtyard, the way his eyes measured you. You remember his words. In this city, reputation is worth more than gold. Reputation isn't just bravery, it's reliability, cleverness, usefulness. You step forward, heart thudding. Honored sir, you say, keeping your tone deferential. May I ask a question? The taxman's eyes flick to you, taking in your travel-stained clothes, your sun-darkened skin, your lack of insignia. You are? He demands. Amadou bin Ibrahim, you say. Agent for Al-Hajj Mahmud. An exaggeration. Not entirely a lie. And your question? He says, clearly amused by your audacity. Will this new tax be recorded in the manse's books in Niani? You ask. Or in your governor's archives here? The scribe's hand pauses, just for a second. The taxman's eyes narrow. Of course, he says. All policies are recorded. Then there will be a decree, you say mildly. A written order with the seal of the Mansa or his appointed governor, stating the change in terms. Forgive me, but Al-Hajj will ask to see it. He keeps very precise accounts. But Mahmud does know how to make trouble in polite ways. He deals with judges and qadis, with men of law. The taxman's jaw tightens. Our governor acts with the authority of his own sword, he snaps. He does not need a piece of paper to tell him how to tax his river. Of course, you say quickly. I did not mean to question his authority. Only, you let your gaze flick, purposefully, to the scribe's hand. Only to ensure the accounts match, so that when envoys from Niani come to reconcile the records, no one is surprised. The scribe's fingers twitch. He knows exactly what that would mean. The Mansa's agents do, occasionally, travel to check that the gold and taxes promised from far provinces match what actually arrives. Discrepancies have consequences. The taxman glances at his scribe. Just a flicker. It is enough. 8 per boat, then, he says sullenly. As a temporary emergency measure. We will review it next season. For now, pay and move. Your goods clog the dock. You bow your head. Of course, honored sir, you say. As you say. Saray looks at you as you step back into the throng. His eyes are hard to read, but a small nod dips his chin. Half victory, he murmurs. Better than none. Half? Yusef hisses. He's still doubled the tax. But he knows now that someone is watching, you reply under your breath. And if he raises it again, he'll have to answer questions he doesn't want. Saray's mouth twitches. You think like a merchant, he says. Mahmud will like that. Gao's markets are a storm of color and sound. You have seen Timbuktu's markets 100 times, walked their labyrinths of cloth and spice and metal. Thou is different, rougher, louder. There are more soldiers here, their iron helmets catching the light. More horses, stamping and snorting in the heat. More slaves, wrists bound in chains, eyes downcast. The smell is overwhelming. Dried fish and fresh meat, sweat and manure, hot iron and hot sand. You and Yusuf follow Soray through the crush, guarding the small locked chest he carries with both hands. It holds either gold or letters or both. Whatever it is, Mahmud considers it important enough to send under seal. Your task is simple. Stay close. Watch. Remember. At a low clay-walled building near the center of the market, Soray stops. This is Al-Hajj's house in Gao, he says. His factor lives here. You will meet him. He knocks. A small hatch opens. A pair of shrewd brown eyes peers out. Who seeks? A voice demands. Soray al-Kanta, with cargo from Timbuktu for Al-Hajj Mahmud, Soray says, and his men. Open Idrissa before I die in the sun. The hatch snaps shut. A moment later, the door swings open. The man inside is in his 30s, perhaps, with thin shoulders and a scholar's ink on his fingers. He wears good cloth, but his sandals are worn. His eyes are tired and sharp. "Soray," he exclaims. "By the river's mercy, you're late. We thought you drowned." "Almost," Soray says. "Storm, bandits, taxes." Idris's gaze goes to you and Yusuf. "And these?" he asks. "Amadou and Yusuf," Soray says. "Sons of Adair, men of Mahmud now." Idris's brows rise. "You survived Soray and the river both," he says. "Come in, then. Mahmud must see something in you." His tone holds skepticism, but not unkindly. You step into the cool dimness of the house. Inside, the air smells of parchment and dust and a faint hint of incense. Shelves line the walls, stacked with ledgers and letters. A low table holds scales and weights, neat piles of cowrie shells, small leather pouches tied shut. You feel oddly at home. Idrissa sets Soray's chest on the table, fingers checking the seals with care. "This is not the worst season," he says, half to himself, "but not the best. Prices are unpredictable. Songhai's princes fight and then pretend they don't. Mali's envoys make demands Songhai ignores. Gold moves but slowly." He breaks the seal, lifts the lid, and scans the papers inside. He murmurs. Yes. Prices, complaints. Mahmud always complains. He glances at you again. "You, Amadou," he says. "You can read?" "Yes." You say. "And write?" "Yes." "Good." He plucks a folded sheet from the chest and hands it to you. "Read that. Summarize." You unfold it carefully. The script is neat and flowing, Mahmud's hand. You recognize it from the brief contracts you saw in Timbuktu. The letter details the contents of the cargo, the expected prices, the margin he considers acceptable. It mentions the new taxes at Gao, concerns about Songhai's ambitions, rumors from the north. You read quickly, mentally sorting, weighing. "It is a set of instructions," you say, "on minimum prices for cloth and cola, maximal discounts for bulk buyers." He notes the increased, unofficial expenses in Gao and says you are to keep records of every extra myth call. He warns that if Songhai's taxes continue to rise, he will consider rerouting trade through Jinei. Idris's lips twitch. Mahmud always threatens to reroute, he says. But it costs him too. "Very well. You understand enough." He turns to Yusuf. "And you?" "I read slowly," Yusuf admits. "But I remember quickly." "Useful in other ways then," Idrissa says. "Good. We will need both kinds." You exchange a glance with your brother. Something has changed, you realize. On the desert run, you are baggage with hands a pair of strong backs. On the river, you became eyes and tongues that could be turned into weapons. Here, in Gao, you are something else. Agents. Small ones, yes, but part of a web that stretches from Timbuktu to Gao and back. Your name, your actions, will travel faster than you do. The treachery in Gao is quieter than storms and bandits. It seeps instead of slamming. You see it in the way merchants cluster in corners of the market, talking in low voices. In the way certain soldiers linger near their stalls, not buying, just staring, hands resting too casually on the hilts of their swords. You see it in Idris's ledgers. At night, after the market closes, you sit with him on woven mats, the lamplight gilding the pages, the smell of oil and old paper in the air. He opens the books for you without hesitation. He has no time to teach someone who isn't going to help. "These are taxes supposed to go to the Mansa," he says, pointing to a column. "These are what we actually pay to the local governor. These are gifts for his men. See the difference? You do. The numbers in the first column are steady, predictable. The numbers in the second wobble, sometimes swelling like a flooded river, sometimes shrinking without clear reason. The third column grows slowly but relentlessly. Your governor grows greedier each season, you say. Not just greed, Idrissa replies. He is paying men, too. Songhai eyes Molly's hold on Gal. There are princes who would be Mansa in more than name. Men buy loyalty with silver, and when silver runs short, they look for it in our pockets. Yusuf mutters. Exactly, Idrissa says. He taps the page. If this continues, merchants like Mahmud will leave, he says. They will take their gold, their cloth, their salt elsewhere. Books will stop coming, news will dry up, Gao will become just another river town with soldiers and noise. Can nothing be done, you ask? Idrissa laughs without humor. Against princes and governors, we are traitors, Amadou. We fight with ink, not spears. You look at the ledgers. Ink can cut, though, if wielded well. We can make sure the right people see this, you say slowly. When envoys from Niani come, when Qadis ask why expected gold does not match what arrives, if Mahmud knows he can amplify it, men like him talk to men who talk to the Mansa. Idrissa studies you for a moment. You think a dyer's son can tug the beard of princes from 3 weeks' walk away? He asks quietly. I think 100 dyer's sons, 100 merchants' agents, all keeping careful accounts, all whispering the same story, can make even a prince look over his shoulder, you say? Yusuf shakes his head, half admiring, half exasperated. Careful, brother, he says. One day you'll talk us into changing an empire. Idrissa chuckles. I would settle for changing the tax rate, he says. But very well, help me tidy these numbers, make them clear. If a storm is coming, let us at least show where the clouds gathered. Your time in Gao is not all ink and tension. There are small joys. You stand on a high bank in the evenings, watching the sun turn the river into a sheet of hammered copper. You see dancers in a square, their bodies moving with drums that make your ribs vibrate. You meet a griot, Fatumata, a woman whose voice could make stone weep, who sings of Sundiata and the lions of old Mali. You boys, she says afterward, her many bracelets jingling as she gestures. Your names, I have not heard in any songs. We haven't done anything worth singing about, Yusuf says, only half joking. Not yet, she agrees, but the way you stand, the way you listen. You are at the beginning of a verse, perhaps. She taps your forehead lightly. Remember, a reputation is a story other people tell about you, she says. Be careful which story you give them. You think of the desert, the storm, the bandits. You think of the taxman's narrowed eyes, the ledger's neat rows. You wonder what story is being told about Amadou and Yusuf tonight in some tavern corner. When the time comes to return to Timbuktu, the river seems different. It is the same water, the same meanders, the same hippos glaring from the shallows. But you are not the same. The convoy leaves Gao heavier with goods, gold dust sealed in leather gourds, sacks of grain, rolled hides, letters and news. Idrissa gives you a packet of documents bound in oilcloth. For Mahmud, he says, and for the Qadi in Timbuktu. Do not lose them. We'll keep them dry, you promise. He grips your forearm, a merchant's farewell. Safe water, he says. Safe ledgers, you reply. He laughs. You'll do, he says. The journey downriver is faster. The current is with you now, tugging the canoes homeward. The men are more relaxed, though not careless. The memory of the storm and the bandits runs in all of you like a scar. You pass the old woman's village again. She recognizes Saray and waves from the bank, her gray braids swinging. I see you kept your throats, she calls. The river has not grown any kinder since you left. We've grown meaner, Yusuf calls back, grinning. Her cackling laughter follows you down the bend. Nights are easier. You sleep more deeply. You dream when you do, not of drowning but of numbers and maps and doors opening. You do not notice the danger until it is almost too late. It comes not from the water this time, but from the sand. You have stopped to rest on a small island, a low bar of sand and pebbles studded with scrub bushes. The canoes are pulled halfway up, cargo still lashed but paddles set aside. The men stretch, relieve themselves, share dried fish and millet cakes. The sun is gentle, the afternoon light golden. Yusuf stands at the edge, toes in the water. "Do you smell that?" he says suddenly. "Fish," you answer, tearing a piece of dried meat with your teeth. "No," he says, frowning. "Something else." You sniff. At first, all you get is the usual river blend. Then, smoke. Not from your small cooking fire. A sharper, thicker smell. Wood and something else. Cloth? Oil? Sore stiffens visibly, head turning like a hunting dog's. "Get to the boats," he says quietly. "Now." You grab the nearest bundle of cargo, hands moving by habit even as your eyes rake the horizon. Downriver, the bend hides your view. Upriver, you see at them. Not one plume of smoke. Several. Thin, gray, rising from the left bank. And beneath them, the shadowy shapes of horses moving against the brighter sand. Riders, you say, many. Sorente curses under his breath. "Desert bandits," he says. They ride along the bank and wait for boats to pass close. "We can hug the far side," Bakari says, "and drift into the reeds where crocodiles sleep." Ndi mutters, "Better crocodiles than men with bows on higher ground," Sore snaps. Already, the men are shoving the canoes back into the water, hands splashing, feet slipping. Your chest tightens. You think of the desert bandits you never saw, only heard about. Men who strike like sandstorms, sudden, overwhelming, gone before you can blink. "Load," Sore barks. "Fast, we move now." You and Yusuf toss the last bundles in and scramble aboard. Musa is already in position, paddle ready. The canoes shove off, one by one. The river grabs you, swinging you into the current. "Right bank," Sore shouts. "Stay close to the water's deepest line." The men paddle hard, not waiting for the current to do the work. Sweat breaks again on your back, your arms burning. The smoke upriver thickens, shapes coalesce, riders, yes, a dozen, more, shadows on shadows, then one breaks away from the group, galloping down the bank toward you, a dark figure on a pale horse. Sunlight flashes on something raised high, a signal. The others wheel their mounts, following. "They see us," Yusuf says unnecessarily. "Down," Sore yells. "Low in the boats. Paddles only when the wave hits." You flatten yourself against the cargo, feel Yusuf's breath hot on your cheek. The first arrow hits the water just ahead of your bow, sending up a small plume. The second thunks into a bundle 2 canoes down. A man yelps, not in pain but shock. They are still far enough that the shots are mostly wild. But distance shortens. "Why are they so desperate?" you rasp. "We are not the only convoy on this river. We are the one in front of them," Da replies darkly. Arrows hiss. One skims so close to your ear you feel its passage like a hand. "Can we not stop?" someone whispers hoarsely. "Parley? Offer goods?" "Bandits do not stop to talk when they have the higher ground," Sore says. "They talk later over what they took." You grit your teeth, eyes scanning instinctively for any cover. There is none. Just smooth, low banks on your side, higher, rockier ones on theirs. Your gaze catches on something upriver, a small branching inlet on the right, half hidden behind reeds. The curve of the main channel would take you close to the left bank, within easy bowshot. But that inlet, can we take that side channel? You hiss to Musa, pointing. He glances, eyes narrowed. "It is shallow," he says, "but maybe deep enough for empty boats, not for heavy ones." "What if we weren't as heavy?" you say. He stares, not understanding. Then you see the idea kindle in his eyes. He shouts to Sore a rapid string of Songhai words, gesturing. Sore twists, looks, calculates in a heartbeat. "Drop some cargo," he says. A murmur of horror arises. Drop, but cloth and cola. From the first boat he barks. Not the gold, not the letters. We lose some profit, or we use our lives. Choose. The hesitation is brief. Men in the first boats begin slashing ropes, shoving bales overboard. Cola nuts spill into the river, bobbing like a strange, bitter harvest. Cloth soaks, darkens, then sinks, slow and reluctant. The boats rise, just a little, riding higher. The riders on the left bank close the distance, whooping, their bows flashing. The first arrow finds flesh. A man in the rear canoe grunts, clutching his shoulder as a shaft sprouts there, feathered end trembling. He does not scream. He grits his teeth and stays in the boat. The second arrow strikes a paddle, snapping it in half. Hold! Sore bellows. Hold! When you are almost abreast of the side inlet, he gives a low, sharp whistle. Right, now. The convoy shears. Paddles bite, hard. The boats swing like beads on a string, cutting toward the narrow opening. The current fights you, wanting to drag the convoy into the main easy curve. You fight back, muscles straining. Arrows rain down, angrier now. One slices across your calf, a line of fire. You hiss, but the wound is shallow. You keep paddling. The first canoe hits the mouth of the channel. For a terrifying moment it seems you will ground. The bow shudders, scraping something unseen. But then, with a wet sucking noise, it slides over and into slightly deeper water. The rest follow, one after another, scraping, jolting, but moving. Behind you, the main current rushes by, wide and inviting. The riders aim for where you would have been, not where you are. Arrows spatter the water, mostly harmless now. One, blind lucky, finds Bakari's die. He howls, dropping his paddle. Hold him! Ndiaye roars, grabbing his friend, hauling him down. The channel twists, reeds brushing against your shoulders, the water narrower but calmer. The riders peel away, frustrated. Horses cannot follow you into water too deep for their hooves and too shallow for their bellies. In the cramped, green-smelling tunnel of reeds, the sounds of pursuit fade. You emerge 10 minutes later into the main river again, hearts pounding, arms like lead. Soray, in the lead, raises his paddle in silent salute toward the hidden inlet, as if thanking the river itself. You see pads others miss, he says to you later, quietly. And you think quickly, Mahmoud will hear that too. Yusuf slaps your back, careful of your calf. That's twice now you've kept us from being pincushions, he says. At this rate, people will start asking you for advice. They'd be fools, you say. But inside, a small, fierce glow burns. You are not just surviving, you are shaping outcomes. When at last Timbuktu's low, familiar outline rises on the horizon, your heart feels like it is trying to escape your chest. The city looks both exactly the same and utterly different. The Jingwerber's minaret still spears the sky. The mud walls still crumble in places, rebuilt endlessly by hands like your father's. The air still shimmers with heat, the smell of dust and dung and cooking fires. But you have changed. You walk up from the river with the other men, Idris's packet secure under your arm, Yusuf beside you. Your clothes are worn, your skin darker, your step easier. At Mahmoud's gate, the same guards stand watch, spears in hand. One squints, then his eyes widen. You came back, he says, surprised. Twice now, Yusuf says. You should start betting on us. The guard snorts, but a hint of respect warms his gaze. Inside, the courtyard is as you remember. The fountain, the palms, the jasmine. Mahmoud sits in the shade, as if he has never moved. Only the new threads of silver in his beard betray the passage of time. He watches you approach, his eyes unreadable. Soray bows. We returned, he says simply. Storms, bandits again, taxes. He gestures to you. These two, he says, were worth 10 men, maybe more. Mahmud's gaze shifts to you and Yusuf. Tell me, he says, in order of danger. Storm, bandits, taxes. Yusuf doesn't hesitate. Taxes, he says. Mahmud laughs, the sound genuine. You will do well, he says. Give me the letters. You hand him Idris's packet. He breaks the seal and scans quickly, his lips moving as he reads. Occasionally, his brows draw together. Sometimes they lift, just a little. Finally, he sets the packet aside. You have seen much for men your age, he says. Desert, river, cities. You have fought weather and men, and you have done more than swing paddles and carry bundles. He nods towards Sore. I trust Sore's judgment, he says. When he tells me you are useful, I believe him. When Idrissa writes that your mind is sharp and your numbers clean, I believe him too. He leans forward. You were promised 75 mithqals each for this journey, he says. With the 50 from Tagaza, that makes 125 each. Together, you have earned 250. I add another 50, because you have brought in not only goods but information. You blink. 300 mithqals. Almost enough. You have also paid me in reputation, Mahmud continues. Men talk. Word of the foolish dyer's sons who crossed the desert once. That was a small thing. Word of the men who returned from the river twice, who fought off bandits, argued with taxmen, and did not lose my gold. That travels faster. He steeples his fingers. I find that I care more for that than for 450 mithqals. Your breath catches. What are you saying, Al-Hajj? You ask softly. He smiles, small and sly. I am saying the debt is paid, he says. I release your father from his obligation. His house is his vats are his name is clean. You feel as if the air has been knocked from your lungs. For a moment, everything goes distant. The sound of the fountain, the smell of jasmine, Yusuf's sharp inhale. Then it rushes back. You realize your vision is blurring. You blink hard. In addition, Mahmud says, as if dropping a small stone into an already overflowing bowl, I wish to formalize what has already happened. I want you, Amadou, as my factor in training here, and you, Yusuf, as my agent on the road. When I send caravans, you will go, sometimes together, sometimes apart. I will pay you well. I will trust you with gold and letters and decisions. Yusuf lets out a low whistle. You want to make us proper merchants, he says, not just hired hands. I want to make you men whose names open doors, Mahmud says, so that when old men like me are gone, the roads are not left to fools and thieves. He spreads his hands. You may, of course, refuse, he adds mildly. You could go back to your father's vats. Dye cloth until your hands are blue and your backs bend. There is honor in that. You think of the cool dye pits, the rhythm of work, the small, steady life. You think of the desert's silence, the river's roar, the feel of rope under your fingers as you lashed boats together in the dark, the taste of victory when bandits fled. You think of Idris's ledgers, of Fatumata's song, of the old woman's cackle, of Sore's rare, fierce smile. You look at Yusuf. His eyes are bright, his jaw set. Well, big brother, he says, do we go back to being just dyers? Or do we see what other storms the world has for us? You could say no. You could choose safety. But safety, you realize, is not what your bones were made for. You press your right hand to your heart. If you will have us, Al-Hajj, you say, your voice steady, we accept. Mahmud nods once, as if this were always the answer. Good, he says. Then go home first. Tell your father and mother. Eat their food. Sleep in your own beds. In a month, we will talk again. There will be other journeys, other accounts, other storms. He looks at you both, something almost like pride in his gaze. And other stories, he says. Make them good ones. Your father's hands shake when you tell him. He sits on the low stool he has sat on for 20 years, in the courtyard that smells of indigo and ash. The vats steam gently in the afternoon light. Cloth hangs on lines, drying into deep, rich blues. Your mother stands behind him, one hand on his shoulder, the other pressed to her mouth. You mean, he begins, then cannot finish. He released the debt, you say. All of it. The house is ours. These vats, this yard, no one can take them. Your mother sobs, once, sharp and loud. Your father bows his head. We did nothing to deserve such sons, he whispers. We did enough, you say quietly, and we will do more. You tell them about the storm, the bandits, Dow. You leave out some details, the more frightening ones. You add others, the funny missteps, the mispronounced phrases in unfamiliar tongues. Yusuf embellishes naturally. And then, he says, the bandit says he'll use my tongue for boot leather, and Sori tells me to make myself bigger than we are. So I tell them the Mansa is sleeping in our boat. Your mother swats at him with a rag. Don't say such things, she scolds. If the Imam heard, he laughs and kisses her cheek. It's all right, mother, he says. The only ones who heard are halfway to the coast by now, telling their friends there are demons on a river. Your father listens, eyes soft. When you finish, he reaches out and takes your hands. The indigo stains on his fingers have sunk into the skin over the years. No amount of scrubbing will remove them. Your calluses from rope and paddle and pen need his dye-deepened lines. You have walked far beyond what I ever did, he says quietly. You have seen things I only heard in stories. I was afraid when you left. I am still afraid when you go. But I am proud. The word lands between you with more weight than gold. Your mother wipes her eyes. Just remember, she says, voice thick, no matter how far you walk, your feet know the way back here. You smile. We always come home, you say. Yusuf nods emphatically. Especially when home has your cooking, he adds. She laughs then, truly, and pulls you both into an embrace that smells of soap and millet and something you don't have words for. That night, you lie on your old mat, under the same patch of sky you stared at as a boy. The stars look the same. You are not. You think of the desert wind, of the river's cold grip, of the press of bodies on Gao's streets. You think of ledgers and gold and promises. You think of the way Sore's you did well. Felt, the way Idris's ink-stained fingers moved over the columns, the way Mahmoud said, your reputation. You think of Yusuf's hand in yours when the boat turned, the feel of his shoulder against yours when you watched a taxman squirm. You breathe, slow and deep. Outside, the city of Timbuktu breathes with you. Donkeys bray, a baby cries and is soothed, a distant dog barks at something only it can see. Somewhere, a scholar reads by lamplight. Somewhere, a griot plucks a kora. Somewhere, a caravan master makes a list of men he will trust with his next journey. Your name might be on that list. You are no longer just the son of Ibrahim the dyer. You are a man who has walked the salt road and ridden the river, who has faced storms of wind and storms of men and has not broken. You are part of a story that is beginning to be told, in snatches, in round fires. When sleep finally takes you, it is deep and easy. In your dreams, the desert and the river are not enemies, but roads, long, winding, dangerous, yes, but leading somewhere. And on those roads, always, there are two figures. Sometimes they walk side by side. Sometimes one leads and the other follows. Sometimes they argue, sometimes they laugh. But always, always, they are together. You and Yusuf, brothers, travelers. Men whose greatest treasure is not the gold they guard or the cloth they sell, but the reputation they earn, journey by journey, choice by choice. The night settles over Timbuktu. Somewhere, a new story begins. For now, yours rests. You are home. Safe, respected. And when the road calls again, as you know it will, you will answer. Together.